Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Connie. If you're new here, you're very much welcome. Today's episode is about going back to IDAC. Yes, Independent Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. It's a organization that's meant to investigate crime in South Africa. But so far, it looks like it has not been doing that. It's actually been obstructing police from arresting criminals. Now, the latest saga is that IDAC called the head of CI, Crime Intelligence, Dumisani Khumalo, to present himself to the police station in Pretoria for immediate arrest. Yes. Now, what are the charges? We don't know yet. You can guess the charges. Maybe this time around, IDAC has charged the head of CI for ordering stuff from a different supplier. Why did you order this equipment from China instead of this place, instead of India? Maybe it was one of the charges. We don't know. We can only guess based on the history and the records of the charges that IDEC brought against the head of CI, the most competent senior head of CI in South Africa, who told us about the big existence of this Big Five cartel, the infiltration of the Big Five cartel into law enforcement, and how he found out about it, the methodology, and some of it was present, some of this was in camera. But this is the person we're talking about. Yes, when I always say the Big Five cartels, is because of his presentation, of his explanation, how the Big Five cartel works. And so far, he's been proven correct after these recent arrests. And the police officers who've been coming to the into Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, working with these Big Five cartels. And one of the most consequential, high ranking Major General Feroz Khan is also allegedly linked to this IDAC organization. So, who's leading IDAC? Of course, Andrea Johnson. Uh, Why is Andrea Johnson significant? It's because her husband reports to Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo. So that means if Dumisani Khumalo leaves crime intelligence, her husband is sure guaranteed to ascend to the throne. By then, we shall say, God save South Africa. God protect South Africa. If anything we've witnessed so far about the behavior of IDEC, yeah, we can only pray. That's the only thing I can say is prayers. If prayers do solve the problem, that's all we have. It looks like that's all we have because what we have an executive, Ramaphosa's government, useless, really useless. Been useless since the first administration, still continue with this uselessness. Because the reason why I'm saying it's useless, this allegation when they first appeared, the minister, Kubayu, who is responsible for that department, should have actually instituted an independent review of that institution, independent review of IDEC. Immediately when those allegations were made public last year, she should have really set up an independent review of IDEC, but she failed to do that. And they should have actually looked at leadership changes at IDEC, but she failed to do that. Okay. They should have actually instituted a great government oversight, but they failed to do that. And this is the function of executive Ramaphosa and his ministers. This is IDEC is reporting to this executive. They should be responsible, be held accountable for their behavior. Now, of course, we should always protect operational independence for any profession. But this one, it looks like IDEC doesn't protect other law enforcement independency. They've always interfered. Remember when Matlala was arrested, one of the alleged big member of the Big Five cartels, how IDEC threatened the police? to me, it looks like an interference or someone who's on the other side of the big five cartels. Not seeking collaboration, it wasn't even their investigations, but they attempted to interfere with that. They always attempt to interfere with policing investigation. They always put these charges that are useless, like the one they put against the head of CI that he dared to hire a smart, black, independent woman who is an engineer from BMW to assist them with their electronic skills and engineering skill that they needed at crime intelligence. No, no, no. According to Andrea Johnson, that no, no, no. That's they shouldn't do that. So the head of CI was charged, and one of the bail conditions that actually even the High Court had to intervene with that bail condition, that the initial bail condition that IDAC put against the head of CI was that the head of CI must not go to his office for hiring an engineer, young, smart, intelligent black woman, for hiring her to work and assist the head of CI. For that, those charges was that the bail condition for those charges was, hey, Dumisani Khumalo, who is the most competent senior rank officers who was able to uncover this stuff about the Big Five cartel, you should not go to your office. You're barred to go to your office. That was one of the bail conditions in there. We're still about to hear them present themselves to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. I will say it again, Madlanga Commission of Inquiry needs to be extended for another year. Should be 2 years inquiry. There's so much job to do, and they haven't touched or scratched the surface. The other committees, another investigation that were investigating the same whistleblowers allegations, they refused to allow Feroz Khan to come and present and explain himself in front of that other committee. They gave all sort of excuse. One of the person that gave those excuses was Julius Malema. Then we found out at Madlanga Commission of Inquiry following this arrest of Feroz Khan that, potentially Julius Malema has some explaining to do around his relationship with this person, Mayor General Feroz Khan, about what they were able to obtain, the data that was able to obtain from his phone. So Andrea Johnson allegedly is linked to this group of people. So why I'm saying now is that on last week, Friday, I don't know, it was Friday or Saturday, apparently the very same institution rang head of CI to present himself at the nearest police station in Pretoria to, there's an arrest warrant against him. What are the charges? At the moment, it's not clear, but we can suspect it's one of those ridiculous charges that perhaps this time around the charges are he ordered, equipment, CI equipment from a different provider. Yeah, because it would benefit Andrea Johnson and her husband if Dumisani Khumalo leaves. And also it would benefit the cartels if Dumisani Khumalo leaves. So thankfully, some of the executive intervened, but that arrest warrant is still there, and we want to know when is this. I wanted that arrest warrant to be rescinded to make anything that IDAC does null and void. This is a rogue institution, probably being infiltrated by these Mossad people in there. I suspect the Mossad is working in there. But they should make that institution, IDAC, as null and void institution, just disband it immediately. However, they can't do it, lawfully do that, but so independent review would be a first thing that they do, independent review, but independent review takes a long time. They should have instituted that last year. But it doesn't mean they couldn't do it. They can't hire a retired judge, justice like Madlanga and others to go and investigate for about 6 weeks what's going on at IDAC and keep everything on hold. Suspend all activities that IDAC is engaged in until the independent review report is sitting at the president's desk. That's what they need to do. Then after that, they need to review the leadership. They need to have a greater oversight. Kubai, who is the minister for this, who's meant to look after this department, is out there dealing with immigration. You can ask, why is she dealing with immigration? Because immigration is DA's portfolio. Because DA is nowhere to be seen. DA, all they did, they went to Parliament, got this digital nomad stuff, and they sit back and did nothing. They're going to lose. Because Home Affairs is a very important department, but it's the most corrupt. So it requires leadership that's actually out there and be seen and heard, that is working hard to get rid of illegal immigrants. But no, they're not doing that. So Kubai is out there dealing with illegal immigration when she's meant to be actually dealing with her department, which is this IDAC. IDAC, in my view, is the dog that needs to be put on the leash. You need to put this dog on the leash. Seriously. Because the country will burn if you don't do that. This is serious stuff here, guys. It's serious. It's very serious. This institution called IDAC was designed to go after certain people. That's it. It's not investigating any crime. So you need to have a review of it. And once the review is done, decide based on that review. Ensure that the people who are doing the review are fit and proper. While the review is still in the process, you need to have a greater oversight of who is actually working there. Everyone that's working there needs to have the highest security clearance. It's a must-have. If they don't have it, they shouldn't go to the office, because so far it looks like they are creating an environment where crime thrive and survive. While they're meant to be a body that works against crime, they're meant to collaborate with officials, law enforcement like your SAPS, but they're not doing that. They're obstructing the SAPS. For the most part, they are threatening competent, highly ranked police officials for useless stuff like, why do you dare hire an engineer in crime intelligence? Seriously. Again, I'm going to play these videos that I have here that I want you guys to listen to. One is MKP, and following to that is her, Andrea Johnson. Maybe we should play Andrea Johnson's video first. What I'll do, I just play her video first because it's very important. We play her just to hear her give the reasons why she charged Dumisani Khumalo for hiring young black engineer to help the head of CI. Let's listen. Then after, we'll just go to MKP. Then I will play my last video that I posted last year in November, talking about the very same topic, providing my analysis that so far has been proven to be 100% correct about my initial view and assessment of IDAC as an institution under this Andrea Johnson. How I view it, what were some of the key signs that sort of raised serious eyebrow about it. That was last year in November that I spoke about IDAC. Now we are again another saga as IDAC has created another problem for themselves. So let's listen to the head of IDAC, Andrea Johnson, explain herself what was wrong with head of CI, Dumisani Khumalo, hiring this young, intelligent black woman who is an engineer, who was working at BMW as a senior engineer. Let's listen.
Strategic position. And in placing her in that strategic position, it then indebted her to the accused for whatever they required in the future. And that comes in the other cases in terms of the other investigations that we are continuing to investigate.
What role would that person play if appointed?
So that
within
person
crime
would be
intelligence?
the head of the technical services. And the technical services is quite an important program for crime intelligence. It is where all covert work is done, where instructions for interception and monitoring goes through, where the procurement of devices, listening devices, interception devices are procured. The big procurement items happen here. And so you would need someone here who is not going to question you for that which you want to do. And it wasn't so previously in terms of, well, let me backtrack. Not to the knowledge of IDAC was someone previously in this position that was able to be compliant with what any divisional commissioner would have wanted. In all of
And
You were part of the ad hoc committee that's investigating criminal infiltration into the South African Police Service. Today, it came up that General Dumisani Khumalo, the head of crime intelligence, would have received a phone call from IDAC, and that phone call was to say to him, present yourself before the Brooklyn police station and bring with you an overnight bag. He gets there, and suddenly things have turned around. IDEC issued a statement today saying that there is no truth to them saying that Mr. Khumalo was under arrest in any way, shape, or form. But General Mkhwanazi has had lots to say about this, and that actually this was an arrest attempt, but it was stayed because of intervention from somewhere. What do you make of all of this? I'm asking you this because you were a member of this ad hoc committee, which is now in the middle of drafting its report.
No, I can't dismiss what General Mkhwanazi is saying, and it's likely to happen. I'm saying that because of our observation on how IDEC has been operating. We believe that IDEC, to a certain extent, is weaponized to deal with certain individuals in SAPS. I'll make a practical example. When Advocate Johnson appeared in the ad hoc committee, before she even appeared, we requested for documents which led to the arrest of General Khumalo. Remember the legal scope of IDEC, Cody, that they must arrest allegations, people implicated in allegations related to the state capture and so on. State capture as well, the commission. But Khumalo was arrested for employment processes, recruitment and employment, that he was part of a panel and so on and so forth. So how does that feature in the scope of the Zondo Commission, in the scope of the state capture? But guess what? Until today, that information has never been given to us. We even complained to the senior counsel in the ad hoc committee, Advocate Arenze, that we are now helpless as a party because we instructed you as our senior counsel to request for this information, because the information we got is that even the first arrest was unprocedural. And we had put it to Advocate Johnson that the arrest was not procedural. And if you want to prove us wrong, then give us documents which are proving that you arrested him lawfully. Up until today, that information has never been given to us. Our belief is that IDAC has been weaponized to serve certain factions and destroy certain factions, both at SAPS and at the IPID.
A follow-up to that, the ad hoc committee, at the conclusion of your work, there were still members that suggested more people need to be called here.
Correct.
And one of those names is of a Major General Feroz Khan, who is now going to appear before the Madlanga Commission. But the suggestion from the chair of the Police Portfolio Committee in Parliament, whom I spoke to on this show, said it's not surprising that there were some people who were not in favor of him appearing before Parliament. I'm saying this because he's one of those now that are before court, over and above the fact that he is going to go to Madlanga. Do you remember which parties stood against Feroz Khan being brought before the
No, but that is in the public domain, you know.
I don't.
You
Please
know
educate.
the answer, but I can tell you about the position of the MK party. One, ad hoc committee was politically polluted. That's number one. As a result, it missed an opportunity to deal with many issues at length because there was a lot of political and factional orientation during the processes. Look at what is happening in Madlanga. There are arrests every day emanating from the investigation or the inquiry that is being done. They are not done as yet. No recommendations, no findings as yet. Conclusive. But there are arrests which are happening. What happened with the ad hoc? We went there and turned that thing into a political football. We turned the ad hoc committee into a political football of players who are defending and players who are attacking. And the obsession was about the politics. The obsession was never about terms of reference. I believe that the ad hoc committee did not serve justice. It just scratched the surface. On the issue of General Khan, remember that there are members of the public who kept on giving us information about many wrongdoings which are happening and which had happened which have happened in SAPS. We were in possession of evidence that General Khan is not a clean police officer, and we called for his invitation to the ad hoc committee. But what happened? There are political parties which stood in his defense, which said, no, General Khan is not relevant for this investigation, and so on and so forth. Even the chair himself, I don't understand why he's shocked, because I don't remember him standing with the MK party on this issue. We were the only party, in fact. So all parties there in the ad hoc committee were against the invitation of General Khan. You can go there and listen to the recordings. They are there in the archives. So it's not an information which transpired some years ago. It happened last year, towards the end of last year, and it's still fresh. You can get it in the archives. All parties were against except the MK party. Look at what is happening today. We are vindicated.
Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
And this, the uncomfortable truth here is that if IDAC's processes can be leveraged to elevate convicted criminals while delegitimizing senior crime intelligence investigators inside the SAPS, then IDAC has been pulled, willingly or not, into the center of warfare, into the side of the cartels. This is not about just story about just one man. This is about how institutions get used in factional warfare and how public trust actually gets eroded in the very same process. And that's exactly how democracy fracture.